Yep. Blaze the trail toward freedom.
See, I told you President Obama might turn up. So digital was a word synonymous with President Obama's election campaigns, of course, and the man who made all of that happen for President Obama was Joe Rospers, and he's with us here this morning, the founding partner and creative director of Blue State Digital. Joe, welcome.
Thanks very much.
That song is really quite symbolic, isn't it, of what Obama did for digital strategy and campaigning?
Well, the great thing about it is that that song was incredibly popular and moved all around and was a thing that helped shape the context of the presidential primary in 2008. But the great thing about it is that the campaign didn't make it. It was something that our supporters came together and did on their own, cutting together a speech that the president gave after he lost the New Hampshire primary. And that was something that our supporters put together and some celebrities and some others and put it online. And it started to move around and it went viral in our office and among our supporters. And it wound up being a thing that we sent out to all of our supporters to muster them before the big February 5th primaries. But it was a piece of content that came from our community.
Which speaks volumes about what was going on as this whole digital strategy thing was happening. Let's go back to the beginning. When was the first time you thought about the Obama story in terms of designing a digital strategy and trying to get him elected?
Well, it was when I was called in for a job interview with him. We had a very interesting situation. It was not expected that he would run for president, and in fact, it wasn't really expected that anyone would challenge Hillary Clinton in the primary. And so she was someone who had a nationwide network of supporters after having been in politics for several decades. And so we had a very unique strategic challenge, which was to try to build that national network of relationships with supporters and grassroots donors and people around the country very, very fast from scratch at the beginning. And naturally, that meant to do it through digital.
So is digital any different in the campaigning context to any other content? I mean, just another platform. Is that fair?
Yeah, it's not just a platform for content, though. It's also a platform for the relationships that you can build with your supporters and the kinds of things you're asking them to do in the relationship you're hoping for them to have with the political process. And so it's about content, but it's also about the actions that people take, how we connect them with each other, and how they decide to feel about their role in a campaign.
Which gets us back to that song again, doesn't it? Because that's kind of symbolic of how you made those connections, and then it all came back around from the grassroots back up to you.
That's right. Some people got to make music videos. A lot more people entered data into spreadsheets, but there were lots of actions for grassroots folks.
What about digital strategy? I mean, it's clearly a very embedded approach in your country and now to some extent in ours. I think we're a bit slow comparatively, but where else have we seen it working effectively? I mean, is the Arab Spring an example?
Well, I think there's a question of how it works for spontaneous sort of movements that aren't necessarily organized, but I think the interesting part is what organizations can do to marshal and bring people in to make an organization and its mission and its brand and its community a little less controlled and a little less organized than it otherwise might. And that's a challenge for NGOs and charity and campaigning groups and cultural institutions and museums and brands that want to open up and have deeper relationships with people.
John Payne?
I was just thinking, Obama probably, the campaign in 2008 led the pack. It was, the other sides weren't doing the same thing that you guys were doing. But in 2012, they kind of had that roadmap there. Why do you think Obama's opponents haven't been able to utilise the same digital tools that you have?
Yeah, it wasn't for lack of desire to do it. I think they didn't lack for efforts. They spent a lot of money, they spent a lot of time, and spent a lot of time talking to reporters about what a great job they were doing. But I think what they lacked was the sense of purpose that we had to it, which was that we genuinely believed that this had to be at the center of our campaign, that digital, yes, but more so ordinary people chipping in $5 and $10 at a time, doing the work of building relationships with their neighbors to do the work to make an election happen, that was our only path to victory. And I think the Romney folks thought they could raise a bunch of 6, 7, 8-figure checks and blast their opponents out of the water as they had in the primary. It's not a strategy without merit. It's just sort of not that fun. You know, like it makes me not want to really be involved in politics if that's what politics is.
Right, right. And that's an interesting point you make there, because this is the era of disengagement from mainstream politics, I think we could safely say. You know, the Gen Y kind of going off and reinventing universes that are totally different to ones that we knew before. You're getting them, you know, people engaged in the States through these strategies, but what about in a country like Australia where voting is compulsory?
I think it's less about the voting aspect. I mean, there's an old saying from my old boss, Governor Howard Dean, when he ran for president and then took over the Democratic Party in the States, and he would go around, you know, in an era when the Democrats were completely out of power, and talk to activist groups in all 50 states, and he would say, look, voting is a D on your report card. That's the absolute bare minimum. Everybody should vote. Yes, go vote. But what you do from there is what determines your level as a citizen. And so are you leading the conversation in your community? Are you taking a role in the campaigns and the issues that you care about? Are you sacrificing your time and your money and your life to go represent the things that you believe in? And that's the ethos that helped transform our party and lay the groundwork for our victories in 2006, but also for the way the Obama campaign ran both times.
Joe Rospers is with us. He was President Obama's digital strategist for both campaigns, 2008 and 2012. We've got a wonderful photo here, a slide showing President Obama hugging his wife Michelle. It was the most shared photo in internet history, which says something about the power of the digital environment. Joe Rospers is with us, President Obama's digital strategist, and spreading the word about the digital world to many others as well. John, I wonder if you've got a question for Joe.
One of the issues with the political debate at the moment is that it is so controlled by the spin doctors at times, and digital does kind of give politicians their own direct voice to voters for the first time. But you know, if you're in control of their digital campaign, aren't you just a spin doctor?
Well, I think the difference, I mean, politicians have always obviously had their own voice and been creating content. It's just always been sort of one-way content and frequently actually pretty boring content. And so the digital strategy is an opportunity to create lots of different content, lots of different formats, but also to, most importantly, to have it be part of a two-way conversation with voters, but also with supporters, and to really have a sort of mix of that back and forth. And I think that the conversation, whether it's in social media or with your own supporters, if it is open and inclusive in that way, you know, the arc of that conversation bends towards accountability and candor, and not you know, spin.
What if, say, on Twitter, you know, a lot of politicians are now on there, but they're not the ones actually having those conversations all the time? Is that a danger in the digital strategy if you as a politician are handing it over to someone else to be the one that is engaging rather than engaging yourself?
Well, if you're not keeping an eye on who you're handing it over to, then that's obviously a danger. But I think, you know, for Twitter and all the social media platforms, we actually were very clear and sort of decided to take over Barack Obama's Twitter and Facebook accounts in the voice of the campaign. And so we sort of noted in the profile, said this is actually the voice of campaign staff, and you know, that you know, individual tweets or postings from the president will be signed, you know, BO, and that was an effort to actually be more honest with people and develop our own voice, you know. And so that was something that said, you know, we're going to be coming at you with a whole bunch of stuff that we're going to try to keep interesting and engaging, and have its own sort of tone and voice to it that is from the campaign, and then you will also get to know Barack Obama as well.
How often does Barack Obama actually, maybe you don't know the answer to this, you might have some idea, does he actually tweet himself as opposed to somebody else doing it?
Occasionally, you can see for yourself. I haven't tracked the stats, but both on the @Barack Obama feed, which is the sort of campaign and political side, and on the @White House feed, the tweets from him and from the First Lady are signed by them, and you can see for yourself.
So we're confident that that's actually them. That's.
Yeah, yes, yes.
Okay.
We're, you know, we've frequently taken the dictation. Yes.
Right. We've got a little bit of the sound of what it was like when the digital strategy contributed to the Obama victory in 2008.
If there is anyone out there who still doubts that America is a place where all things are possible, who still wonders if the dream of our founders is alive in our time, who still questions the power of our democracy, tonight is your answer.
President Obama after his victory in 2008. Joe Rospers, just finally, you've made it to Rolling Stone magazine's list of 100 agents of change. What does that mean?
It does not mean that I'm trying to sell change real estate or something. It's a list that they put together every year of folks who are stirring the pot a bit, and that's been the mission, since the beginning on the first campaign I worked on, and through both with Obama's to stir the pot, get more people involved, and maybe make the politicians a little less comfortable.
Yes, all those snollygosters and throttle bottoms that you hang around with. Feel free to steal those words, actually.
Yes, absolutely.
Very good of you to join us today. Lovely to see you. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you so much.
Ladies and gentlemen, Joe Rospers.
Thanks.